Hey Language Luminaries, welcome back. Today on the auspicious occasion of Gita Jayanti, I want my followers to note that Gita Jayanti is a vertebral in our context, and we have to quote ourselves as devotees of Lord Krishna, and the narration which is quoted as Mahabharata in our life with the quotation that the teachings of Bhagavad Gita should be quoted to the mentor who can help us to grow. My name is Shruti MN. I am working as a coach and a career counselor from the past 6 months, and I want my narration to be heard to you as a miracle of Lord Krishna, and I want my life to be quoted to the audience that I started my journey as a freelancer from the year 2019, and now I'm quoting myself as a devotee of Lord Krishna, as a YouTuber, and if I'm able to narrate my experience, I will be able to quote myself as a devotee of Lord Krishna. I started to work on the topic which my Lord wanted me to convey to the audience, and today I am able to narrate the reflection of my thought to my audience. My purpose is served, and I want my life to be quoted to my audience as an example to the narration which my Lord had quoted to me in the year 2019. And I want my life to be quoted to my family as an example of an event which is quoted in the Mahabharata as a evidence in my life, and if it is proven as a consequence which I have to face, I want my podcast to be quoted as an example to my family, that is the Language Luminaries community, to be quoted as a exhibition in the transcendental knowledge which is quoted throughout my life. And I want my Lord Krishna and Prabhupada to explain the consequence to my audience. When Lord Krishna wanted to place himself as a circumstantial proof in Kurukshetra, I understood that the consequence was quoted to me as a reference, that I have to fight the battle and I have to narrate this verse to my audience as an example. That is chapter 40, verse 9. And if you are able to recite this verse with conviction, I will be able to help my audience to conclude their statement to Lord Krishna.
sukhe sañjayati rajaḥ karmaṇi bhārata jnanamāvritya tu tamaha pramāde sañjayatyuta.
I want this verse to be heard to you, and you should understand the context which is narrated to you by the audience, or by the context which is quoted by our Lord Krishna. That is Jnanam, which is quoted as wisdom in the vertebrate, which should be conducted as a surveillance in the mechanism, and sañjayati means a foundation where our Lord is in place with his life. And if you are able to narrate your incident to the incident which is quoted to your Lord, then rajaḥ should be quoted as a preference in this vertebrate. Now, if you are able to understand this context, and if you are able to consider sukhe in your life as a vertebral, and avritya to be considered as a vertebral in your life, as a paramount in your delusion, then pramāde should be quoted as your narration, and the entire verse should be read to you as a consequence. Now, when you listen to the vertebral which I am trying to communicate, it should be clear to the audience, or to the circumstantial proof which we try to communicate. Now, you should be clear with your context. If you are able to narrate your verse to your Lord based on your thought, and if you are able to quote the syllable to your friends or family as a narration, I want you to understand that the syllable will be in place with the vertical only if you are able to narrate it to your audience. And if you are part of satsang, or if you are part of an event which is quoted to you, and if you are able to explain your thought, it is clear that your life is quoted to our Lord Krishna. Now, I want you to focus on today's topic, and if you have any questions, I want you to narrate it as a comment to my video, as a reference to my Lord Krishna. So let's begin with the foundation, with the thought that the three gunas which I am going to narrate, that is Tamas, Rajas and Sattva, should be quoted as a philosophical concern if it is not narrated to the decisions that you have made, or the consequence which you will be part of, if you are not confident that the quality of your inner life, that is the life which is quoted to your loved ones, are in place with your thoughts. Now, I want you to focus on the first guna, that is Tamas. And before I narrate the consequence, I want you to focus on this verse, that is chapter 14 verse 5, where Lord Krishna tries to explain Sattva, Rajas and Tamas as the three modes of our circumstantial proof, which is quoted as a narration to our family. And we are born with a material nature, and we have to bind the eternal soul to the body. Now, when we think about the consequence that we all might face, we should think about this question as a reflection. What are the three gunas, and how would you define each in your own words? Now, when we think about the circumstantial proof, tamas is related to ignorance, rajas is related to passion, sattva is related to harmony. Now, if we focus on the itinerary which is conducted as a circumstantial evidence, and if you are able to conclude the three gunas, that is tamas, the energy of inertia, to be quoted as a narration to you after you understand the consequence. Now let's focus on the first guna, that is tamas, and you should understand the context which is provided in the Bhagavad Gita, that is chapter 14 verse 8. Tamas, born of ignorance, deludes all beings. It binds one by negligence, laziness and sleep. Now, if you are able to express your narration as a consequence, you will be able to understand the reality of your life. In your daily circumstantial evidence, that is tamasic decisions look like procrastinating important tasks, overeating or eating late at night, staying in bed even when you feel drained afterwards, choosing comfort over growth. I feel that the diet which I'm quoting will help you to understand the consequence. Now, when we think about the second question as a narration to our friends or family, and if you're able to understand the choice of food which you have to add as a circumstantial proof to our Lord, the question which I'm going to narrate to you as a evidence will stay in your will prove your identity as a devotee of Lord Krishna. Which guna influences your decision making the most in your daily life? I want your thought to be quoted as a endurance in my life after you understand that the diet which I'm quoting should be quoted as a reference to you. The Gita even describes how tamas affects food choices, and tamasic diet should be quoted as a reference. Example, reheated food several times can be quoted as an exemption in the itinerary. Junk food, which is again quoted as a narration to the negative thoughts which we receive. Over processed snacks, which is quoted as a narration to your family after you make a decision, that is to focus on your health, and if you have a routine which you want to follow, that is after you quote your narration to me or to your Lord as a benefit, as a vertical in your context. And if this, for example, is quoted as a narration to me, that is heavy lifeless meals, which is quoted as a example to me, and I want to narrate this incident where my friend wasn't pleased with her thoughts after she was part of a event where she had to order a meal which was not part of her diet, and she had to quote it to her family or friends, a member of a family who made it clear to her that if she's part of an event, she should quote her narration to the right individual who can support her plan. Now, if you think about your future, you should understand that the discipline that we follow, that is to read Bhagavad Gita and focus on our chanting as a routine to be quoted to Prabhupada and our Lord Krishna. Tamas isn't quoted as a purpose in our life where we have to focus on sleep and rest, that is after we complete a routine. But if we think about our future, and if tamas leads to stagnation, I want the second guna to be quoted to you as a reference. Now, I want you to focus on this question. Recall a incident, a recent career decision. Was it sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, and why? Now, let me focus on the second guna, which is rajas, the energy of passion and activity. Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, verse 7, rajas is of the nature of passion, born of desire and attachment. It binds the embodied soul by attachment to action. Rajasic decision is fueled by productivity obsession. I want my followers to know that I'm not able to narrate the consequence because of the because of my health condition, and I had to work on this content from and conclude my statement to Lord Krishna on this auspicious day. Now, if you are able to conclude your statements, desire, ambition and restlessness is part of your life. That is, if you are attached to the consequence and if you are not able to narrate it to your vertebral or the person who is trying to help you to understand that the behavioral pattern which is quoted as a circumstantial proof, or if you are not able to understand that your the characteristic, the trait which is quoted as a narration to you, that you're nervous, you're not able to grow in your life, and you have to make a decision, then you should understand that you can't focus on more than you can focus on your on the task which is quoted by your mother, for example, or if you are facing constant stimulation, that is multitasking, and if you are clear that you are focusing on a diet and you want to quit drinking coffee, which has a substantial evidence, that is caffeine, which is used as a prohibited vitamin in the coffee powder, which we quote as a narration to our Lord. And if we receive notifications on our phone as a paramount, we should understand that sattvic, rajasic or tamasic gunas are part of the decision that we make. Now, when it comes to the decision that I want to conclude as a circumstantial proof is I wanted to become a YouTuber, and I started to narrate my incident to my the challenges that I faced to my mother, and I realized that I had to quit eating onions now, and it should be quoted as a narration. If I focus on a thought, and if I'm not able to focus on my diet, which is related to negative thinking, or if you're able to quote the diet to your vertebral, and if you're able to survive with the narration which your parents quotes to you as a reference to the propaganda which is quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, then you should make a decision whether your guna is related to the events that are quoted in your life. And you have to make a decision, because if you're working on a diet which is sattvic diet, then the competitive energy should be quoted as a narration to your friend. The reason is the decision which I made was in place with the decision which my parents had made. But when it comes to a friend of mine, I realized that it was not in place with the comments which I had received. In case you want to be quoted as a friend or as a paramount in a person's life, and if the quoted narration is not heard to your friends, where you wanted your friend to help you to grow by quoting a narration, where I wanted my friend to help me to understand, support my decision, that is to focus on my diet. Now, when we think about the next question as a reflection, what behaviors or habits pull you into tamas? Now, you must have made a decision by now that you will focus on your diet. You wouldn't quote your energy as a circumstantial proof, or you wouldn't quote a narration which is read throughout your life as a vertebral. I want you to understand that the context which is quoted to you is clear, and if you are able to focus on your life and your routine, or if you are able to help your circumstantial evidence by focusing on a diet which is quoted to you. For example, if you are able to eat a fruit which is part of your diet, and I quote muskmelon as a vertebral in your paramount, or the confidence which is quoted as a reference to you, I want you to conduct a research and then conclude the statement to your friend or your mother that muskmelon is part of your routine or your diet as a proof that you are able to inculcate the ingredient, that is fiber, which is used as a reference to your context. And when you think of consuming the fruit as an exemption, you should focus on the structure of the fruit, and if it is quoted as a reference to you, that is, it is round, and you are able to focus on the ingredient and put it to your parents, it is clear that to your friend or your mother, it is clear that your research is in place with the context. Now, the reason I quote muskmelon as a proof and the shape as a reference, or the circumference as a proof, after you prepare your fruit ball as a reference to our Lord, that is the reference which we quote as our offering, that is then you should understand that the way the pattern we choose to cut the fruit as a reference should be quoted as a narration to your family, and if you are able to chew the fruit, the piece, if you are able to consume the fruit without the narration which is quoted throughout your life, that you have issues which is related to your health, and if this narration is quoted to your mother and she is able to understand your priority, then you should focus on the next guna, that is Sattva, the energy of clarity and harmony. Krishna praises Sattva. That means a guna which we all have to inculcate. What routines? Sorry, I want the narration to be heard again to you, that the behaviors or the habits which help you to understand that Tamas is a guna which you have to avoid, and the avoid if you are in place with the circumstantial evidence. Now let us focus on the next question, so that you are in place with the previous statements. What routines help you to cultivate more Sattva? Now the routine which I am putting should be in place with the Sattva diet or the Sattvic food which we consume. I want you to read the chapter 14 verse 6 as a reference to this context. Sattva is pure, illuminating and uplifting. It binds one by attachment to happiness and knowledge. Sattvic decisions feel like making choices from calm clarity, or from the clarity which we put as a reference to our vertebrae. Now, if you are putting a point to your audience, that is your client or the team which is quoted to you as a reference, you have to focus on the choices that you quote as a reference in your to-do list, and you have to practice moderation in your task. That is, if you are trying to explain a concept, it should be clear to the audience that you have to moderate your circumstantial proof. That is the narration which is quoted to your audience, and you should not react to the negative statements which is provided by the audience. Now, if you are able to focus on this diet, that is the routine which I am putting to you, before you before you conduct yourself as a medium, that is a reference to your parents, that you have completed your reading Bhagavad Gita, and you are able to eat the meal which is served to you in the morning as your breakfast, and if your diet is in place with your thought, you will be able to perform a task. For example, if you have to reach metro and you choose to walk instead of asking your friend to drop to help you to reach metro, either so that your travel is in place with the vehicle which he has chosen. Then you should understand the vertical which God is trying to communicate, that you are able to narrate your consequence to your family. Now, the second routine which I am going to help you to narrate, which will help you to understand that the context which I am trying to communicate to this vertebra is heard to the audience. So, the second routine which I am going to help you to understand is you have to follow a routine. That is, first you have to focus on your chanting. Second, you have to narrate your life to your Lord, that is Lord Krishna, and you have to make a note of your progress. And after you decide to face an interview, then it is clear that you are able to ignore the negative comments. Now, if the next question is, if you are able to relate to this topic, then you will be able to answer the next question. How does rajas show up in your communication style? Now, when you think about the reality or the consequence which we have to narrate, that is, what is the endurance when it comes endurance of your diet when it comes to the guna, that is rajas, as a circumference in your vertebrae. We have to understand that the narration is clear to your audience. That is, you should narrate the entire sequence and then decide your itinerary. Or if you are able to communicate your thoughts to your audience without quoting yourself as a reference, you will be able to understand that the consequence that you've quoted is not in place with your vertical, that is the topic. And if you have to conclude the summary within 10 minutes, you should be able to understand that the vertical which you have quoted as rajas is in place with your circumstantial evidence. Describe a moment where awareness helped you to shift from reaction to response. Now, I want to speak about the guna, that is Sattva, and the guna which helped me to grow. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verse 8, the narration which is quoted as a proof that we should consume, and this is a narration which you should understand, fresh fruits, whole grains, nuts, seeds, herbal tea as a prefix, that is a diet which we call as a circumference in our vertical, that is vegan diet, which will be in place with your reference, vegetarian balanced meals. So when we speak about the reference which is quoted to us, it is clear that the diet which is quoted throughout our life is in place with the statements. And if you made a decision that the state of bliss is quoted as a prefix to your life, that Sattva is the state from which wise decision arise, then you have to focus on your reference. That is, when you are making a decision, you should be clear with the choices that you make. Every choice we make aligns with one of these energies. So, when we speak about the awareness, which we have to quote as a reference, it is clear that the reaction should be in place with the decision that you made, or the context which I tried to communicate. You have to focus on noting your feelings in a journal and then putting it as a decision after you quote these narration to your these statements to your parents, or a friend of yours who can help, a friend who can help you to make a decision. Tamasic decisions. I'll start tomorrow. Let me binge something instead. I don't want to think about it. Rajaḥ decisions. I must achieve more. What's next? What's next? I can't slow down now. Sattvic decisions. What choice will bring balance? Now, if you are able to understand that the choice that you make is in place with your decision, so you have to conclude your statement. That is, the choice that you have made is in place with the question, or you can quote it this way. If the choice which you have made is helping you to balance your routine, then the answer to your statement should be quoted as a reference. And if the response of yours, of your statement is hurt to your parents, then the reaction to the response which has helped you to make a decision, and if you quoted this narration in a group, then it is clear that you are trying to focus on your vertebral. And if you're able to help a friend of yours, friend who can help you to focus in your life without quoting yourself as a reference, then sattvic decision can help you to provide the statement as a reference. Let me pause and respond mindfully. What aligns with my values? That is the decision which you have to make. So, which guna dominates your morning routine? How can you improve it? Now, if you are able to understand that the practical daily integration is in place with the gunas, then the routine which I am quoting to you will help you to grow. Now, if you are able to understand that the morning routine, that is to avoid tamasic sleeping, avoid rajasic rushing, or the quoted narration should be quoted to the reference which was quoted to me. That is the guna which can be helpful when it comes to the vertebral. So when your mentor is trying to communicate a reference to you, and if you're not able to narrate the sentence or the statement, that is rajasic guna will help you to narrate it to your audience. And if you're not able to quote this reference to your family, and I try to narrate the statement which my friend's son tried to communicate, and I understood that you have to avoid the term rajasic, and the phrase which he used is to avoid speaking between the vertical, that is the individuals who are trying to communicate their preference. So choose sattvic diet as a preference and focus on yoga and prayer. Now, if you are able to inculcate the choices that you make, you should understand that the vertical which I am providing is in place with your context. Now, what is one sattvic practice you want to begin implementing immediately? Now, before I respond to this question, I want you to understand that, and I've tried to explain the narration to you, which is related to the 8th question. And if you're able to improve your routine by either putting yoga as part of your curriculum, that is a workout routine, or if you're able to put a diet plan in the morning which will help you to understand the vertebral which I'm trying to quote, and you have to narrate this to your parents or a friend of yours who is a friend who can help you to focus on this point. Limit rajaḥ stimulants. So this should be narrated to the vertical which is put throughout your life, that you are not able to focus in your life because of this guna. What is one sattvic practice you want to begin implementing immediately? So when it comes to the narration which I'm going to which is in place with your vertebral, work and productivity will be in place if you avoid tamasic tamasic guna as a characteristic. Now you have to balance rajaḥ and tamasic guna, which is related to the endurance in your life. If you insert sattvic guna, that is, if you are able to stay calm and composed, then you should be able to narrate your life as an experience in your vertebra. Now, before I conclude my session, I want you to focus on the last question. How can understanding the gunas improve your professional growth and clarity? So, if you think about your future, that is, if you are able to put your professional life with your reference, and if you are able to focus on the vertebral which is quoted to you, and the life which is quoted to your parents should be in place with your circumstantial proof. Now your profession is your growth, and the clarity that you receive is the routine which you follow, but is quoted as a routine which you can place as a circumstantial evidence in your itinerary, as a commitment to your plan, or the guna which is quoted to you, that helps you to understand that you are if you are facing a challenge in your work and at your workplace, and you feel anxiety is the issue, is quoted as a reference, and sattvic commitment and clarity helps you to balance your statement. Then you have to put your life to me today as a reflection on Gita Jayanti. We honor the day when Lord Krishna spoke the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. Guidance not only for war but for inner clarity and daily alignment. But when it comes to self-introspection, which is quoted to the vertebrates that we follow, chapter 4 verse 38 is a exemption in your category. In this world, nothing is as purifying as knowledge. One who is perfected in yoga obtains this wisdom within the heart. So this narration is quoted from a reference which I have, which is part of my research, and the word which I have used as a circumference should be quoted as a narration. Now, If you have used a word which is not in place with your caliber, and if it is not placed as a circumstantial proof, I want you to understand that I try to explain that when you are narrating a sequence where the word which I've used as perfected should be quoted as a narration that and as a statement in your life, you should not quote yourself as a prefix in this vocabulary or the narration which you can quote. If you use a word perfection in your itinerary, then the three gunas offer us a map of our inner landscape. With awareness, we understand that the clarity which is quoted to us as a narration should be quoted to our friends as a paramount in the practice that we follow. So I want you to understand that if you have received a notification, that is a text from a person who is interested in your life is trying to make you understand that you should respond to his commitment. I'm talking about an individual who can help you to grow. But if you're not able to focus on your narration, that is, if you want to eat something which is related to your vocabulary, that is the diet which you want to quote it to him, but you want it to be clear to the vertebral which is quoted as an endurance in the category, that is the group which you might be part of, or the vocabulary which is quoted as a reference to you, then you should focus on the narration which Prabhupada tried to convey, that if a narration is quoted to you and if you're not able to respond to the thought, then the circumstantial proof, that is your father, should quote your narration to your friend so that the narration is heard to the person who is part of your circumstantial circumference as a influence in your life. And if it is quoted as a momentum, then you should understand the prefix of the vertebrae. With awareness, we can learn, or we can adapt to a consequence where you can rise above Tamas, refine rajas, and cultivate Sattva. So our daily decisions lead us towards balance, purpose, and peace. Happy Gita Jayanti. May the light of the Gita continue to guide your choices and your inner journey.